The morning light sparkled through the crystal towers of the royal palace, but Princess Aria couldn't enjoy its beauty. She stood perfectly still as three servant robots adjusted her formal dress, their cold metal hands moving with mechanical precision. Every morning was the same. An endless routine of rules and traditions that felt like chains around her heart. "Your posture is dropping, Your Highness," the head protocol droid said in its emotionless voice. "The regent expects perfection at today's court assembly." Aria straightened her back even more, though it was already starting to hurt. The mention of her brother, the regent, always made her tense. Since their parents' death 5 years ago, he had ruled both the Crystal Empire and her life with an iron fist. The dress they put her in was beautiful but heavy, made of living crystal that changed colors to match her mood. Right now, it shimmered with a dull gray, a color of sadness that she quickly tried to hide. Showing the wrong emotions in court could mean hours of behavioral correction later. When the droids finally left, Aria walked to her window. The capital city of Crystal Prime spread out below her, its spires reaching toward the triple moons that hung in the purple morning sky. Somewhere in those streets, normal people were living their lives, making their own choices. But up here in the palace, she was just another perfect ornament, meant to be seen but never heard. She touched the secret pocket hidden in her dress where she kept her most precious possession, a tiny data crystal containing human stories and history. Reading about Earth was forbidden, especially for royalty, but Aria couldn't help herself. The tales of a world where people could choose their own path, speak their minds, and even criticize their leaders fascinated her. "Princess," the stern voice made her jump. Her brother's personal assistant, Master Bell, stood in the doorway. His thin face showed disapproval at finding her by the window instead of preparing for court. "The regent requires your presence immediately." Aria followed Master Bell through the twisting crystal corridors. Other nobles passed by, bowing slightly but never meeting her eyes. She was the youngest royal, the spare hair, useful only for whatever marriage alliance her brother might arrange. None of them saw her as a real person. The throne room doors slid open silently. Regent Thomas sat on the crystal throne, which sparkled with sharp, aggressive patterns that matched his mood. He didn't look up from his data screens as Aria approached and bowed. "Sister," he said finally, his voice cold. "The trade negotiations with the humans begin next week. You will attend all formal functions and demonstrate our cultural superiority. No mistakes will be tolerated." "Yes, brother," Aria replied softly, keeping her eyes down. Inside, her heart beat faster at the mention of humans. Real humans coming here. But she knew better than to show any excitement. "I've heard disturbing reports," Thomas continued, "about you spending time in the historical archives. Such knowledge is unnecessary for your position. You will focus solely on your ceremonial duties from now on." Aria felt her chest tighten. The archives were her only escape, her only way to learn about the galaxy beyond their empire. "But brother, surely understanding other cultures would help me better represent our people." The regent's face darkened. "Questioning my decisions again, sister. Perhaps another session with the behavior modification specialists would help you remember your place." "No," Aria said quickly, hating how her voice shook. "I apologize for my presumption. It won't happen again." Later, alone in her chambers, Aria pulled out her hidden data crystal and held it tight. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered the words she'd memorized from a human book. "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all beings are created equal." The crystal in her dress began to shine with a deep blue color, the color of determination. Maybe the human delegation would bring changes to their empire. Maybe they would bring something even more precious: hope. The message arrived during breakfast. Lord Rex of the Mountain Territories had asked for Aria's hand in marriage. She sat in her private dining room, staring at the glowing crystal tablet while her untouched food grew cold. "This is a great honor," Master Bell said, standing stiffly beside her chair. "Lord Rex controls the largest crystal mines in the Empire. The regent has already approved the match." Aria's hands shook. She had met Lord Rex once, at a royal gathering. He was a cruel man who treated his servants like dirt and had gone through 3 wives already. Some said the previous wives had died in accidents, but no one dared investigate a noble so powerful. "I won't marry him," Arya said quietly. Master Bell's eyes widened. "Princess, you cannot refuse. The alliance is too important." I said no. Arya stood up, her dress crystals flashing angry red. "I won't be another wife for him to break." The throne room doors seemed heavier than usual as Arya pushed them open. Her brother sat with his advisors, discussing the upcoming human delegation. They all turned to stare at her unexpected entrance. "Sister," Thomas said coldly, "explain this interruption." "I will not marry Lord Rex," Arya announced, her voice stronger than she felt. "He is cruel and dangerous. I refuse." Silence fell over the throne room. The advisors looked at each other nervously. No one had ever heard the quiet princess speak so boldly. Thomas stood slowly, his face dark with anger. "You dare defy me? After everything I've done to maintain our family's power." "Please, brother," Arya tried one last time. "Don't force this marriage. I'll do anything else." "Enough." Thomas's voice echoed off the crystal walls. "Guards, take my sister to her chambers. Remove her royal clothing and privileges. Since she acts like a common servant, she can live as one until she learns her place." The guards grabbed Arya's arms. She didn't resist as they dragged her away, but she kept her head high. Better to be a servant than Lord Rex's prisoner. They stripped her of her royal dress, replacing it with the plain gray uniform of palace workers. Her beautiful room was exchanged for a tiny servant's cell deep in the palace's lower levels. But worst of all, they took her precious data crystal with the human stories. The next morning, Arya reported to the head of house services. The old woman looked at her with a mix of pity and satisfaction. "You'll clean the guest quarters," she said. "The human delegation arrives in 3 days. Everything must be perfect." For the first time in her life, Arya's hands grew rough from work. She scrubbed floors, changed bedding, and carried heavy loads. The other servants avoided her, afraid of being associated with a fallen royal. The nobles who passed by pretended not to see her, though she could hear them whisper and laugh. But Arya refused to break. Each night, exhausted in her small cell, she recited the human words she had memorized. "We hold these truths." The words gave her strength. One evening, while cleaning near her brother's private office, she heard voices through the door. "The humans arrive in 2 days," Thomas was saying. "Everything is prepared." "Yes, my lord," another voice replied. "The girl has no idea she'll be blamed for their deaths. The evidence has been planted perfectly." Arya's heart stopped. Deaths? Evidence. She pressed closer to the door. "Once the human delegation is eliminated," Thomas continued, "we'll blame it on terrorists from the rival empire. My sister's involvement will be discovered, and she'll be executed for treason. War will follow, and our weapons manufacturers will make us all very rich." Arya backed away from the door, her mind racing. She had to warn someone. But who would believe a disgraced princess? There was only one hope. Somehow, she had to contact the humans before it was too late. The human delegation arrived on a sunny morning, their silver ship gleaming against the purple sky. Arya watched from a window as she cleaned, her hands automatically moving the cleaning crystal across the transparent surface. 5 humans stepped out onto the landing pad, surrounded by palace guards and greeting robots. One human caught her attention immediately. He was tall and moved differently from the others, his eyes constantly scanning the area. While the other humans wore formal diplomatic clothes, he wore a simple black uniform with a small Earth symbol on the shoulder. A security officer, Arya guessed, remembering her studies of human organizations. "Stop dawdling," the head of house services snapped, making Arya jump. "The humans will tour this wing in an hour. Everything must be perfect." Arya worked faster, but she couldn't help stealing glances at the humans as they entered the palace. The security officer looked up at exactly the wrong moment, catching her eye. She quickly looked away, her heart beating faster. Being noticed was dangerous now. Later that day, while cleaning the palace library, Arya found her old hiding spot still untouched. Behind a row of ancient law books was a small space where she used to read her forbidden human stories. She couldn't help herself. She slipped into the space, needing just a moment of peace. "Well, this is interesting," a quiet voice said. Arya spun around. The human security officer stood there, looking at her with curious eyes. She tried to stand, to run, but her legs wouldn't move. "I'm sorry," she stammered. "I was just cleaning." "With no cleaning supplies?" He smiled slightly. "I'm Jack, and you're not a regular servant, are you? Your posture's too good, and you've been watching us since we arrived." I must go." Arya tried to slip past him, but he held up a hand. "Wait, is that Common Sense by Thomas Paine?" He pointed to the book she'd been reading, an old paper book she'd found hidden in the library years ago. Arya froze. "You know this book? Required reading where I'm from." Jack sat down on a nearby chair, making himself look less threatening. "Though I'm pretty sure it's banned here, just like servants aren't allowed to read." "Everything interesting is banned here," Arya said bitterly, then caught herself. "Please, don't report me. I'll lose my position." "The position you already lost, Princess Arya." Jack's voice was gentle. "Yeah, I read the briefing files. Former royal, demoted to servant for refusing marriage. Quite a story." Arya's legs finally gave out, and she sank to the floor. "You know who I am. Security is my job. I know everything about this palace and everyone in it." He pulled out a small device and pressed something. "There, camera loop activated. We can talk freely for a few minutes." "Why? Why are you helping me?" "Because in the past 2 hours, I've watched you. You work hard without complaint. You're kind to the cleaning robots when nobody's looking. And now I find you reading one of the most important books about human freedom and democracy." He leaned forward. "I think you're exactly who we need to understand this place." Tears filled Arya's eyes. It had been so long since anyone treated her like a person, not a thing to be used or ordered around. "Tell me about Earth," she whispered. "Please, is it really like the books say?" Jack smiled and began to speak. He told her about cities where anyone could live anywhere they wanted, about schools where everyone could learn anything, about elections where people chose their own leaders, about art and music created freely, not just for the noble's pleasure. "We're not perfect," he admitted, "but we believe everyone deserves a chance at freedom." A noise in the hallway made them both tense. "I have to go," Arya said quickly. "They'll notice if I'm gone too long." "Same time tomorrow?" Jack asked quietly. "I'd love to hear your thoughts on Payne's arguments." For the first time in weeks, Arya smiled. "I'll be here." She hurried back to her duties, her heart lighter than before. But a dark thought kept nagging at her. She had to warn Jack about her brother's plot. But would this one afternoon of kindness be enough for him to trust her warning? Over the next few days, Arya cleaned the palace halls with special care, especially near the human delegation's quarters. Each afternoon, she and Jack met in the library's hidden corner, sharing stories and information. But the weight of her brother's murderous plan grew heavier on her conscience with each passing hour. On the 4th day, she overheard more details while cleaning the guard station. 2 officers were talking in low voices about a special delivery coming tonight, weapons that couldn't be traced back to the palace. That afternoon, she arrived at the library shaking. Jack was already there, and his smile disappeared when he saw her face. "Arya, what's wrong?" She took a deep breath. "Jack, I have to tell you something terrible, but you might not believe me. Why should you trust a fallen princess? Try me." He sat down, his face serious. "In my line of work, you learn to listen first and judge later. My brother," Her voice cracked. "The regent is planning to kill your entire delegation, tonight or tomorrow. He'll blame it on the Stark Empire to start a war, and he's arranged evidence to make it look like I helped plan it." Jack didn't look surprised. Instead, he pulled out a small device and pressed a button. "Say that again, please. All of it." Arya repeated everything she'd heard, adding the details about the weapon's delivery. When she finished, Jack nodded slowly. "We suspected something like this," he said, "but we couldn't prove it. Your brother's security is too tight. We needed someone on the inside. You knew." Arya stared at him. "We knew there was a plot. That's why I'm really here, not just as security, but as an investigator. What we didn't know was that you were being set up to take the blame." He reached out and touched her hand gently. "Thank you for telling me. That was brave. What do we do now?" Arya asked. "Now," Jack said, pulling out another device, "we gather evidence. My scanner picked up some interesting energy readings near the regent's private office. Like a hidden room. Any chance you know how to get in there?" Arya thought hard. "Yes. The old servant passages. They're not on any modern maps, but I used to explore them as a child. There's one that goes right behind his office." "Perfect. But it's dangerous. If we're caught, I'll be executed anyway once he frames me," Arya said firmly. "At least this way I'm fighting back." They planned carefully. Arya's cleaning duties gave her an excuse to be almost anywhere in the palace. Jack used his security clearance to access restricted areas. Between them, they mapped out a route to the hidden room. That night, after most of the palace slept, Arya led Jack through narrow passages she hadn't used in years. They came to a small door hidden behind a holographic wall. "The lock is DNA coded to the royal family," Arya whispered. "Good thing we have a princess with us," Jack smiled. Arya pressed her hand to the lock. It clicked open softly, revealing a room full of computer terminals. Jack moved quickly, plugging devices into various ports, while Arya kept watch. "Got it," he said after a few tense minutes. "Financial records, weapon shipments, communication with assassins, everything we need to expose the plot." Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hallway outside the office. Arya grabbed Jack's arm and pulled him back into the secret passage just as the office door opened. Through a tiny crack, they saw Thomas enter with Master Bell. "Is everything ready for tomorrow?" Thomas asked. "Yes, my lord. The weapons are in place. When the humans die, war will be inevitable. And my sister, the evidence has been planted in her cell. She'll be executed before she can deny anything." Arya's hand found Jack's in the darkness. He squeezed it gently, a silent promise of protection. They had the proof now, but could they get it to the right people before it was too late? The alarm sounded just as Arya and Jack reached the servant quarters. High-pitched crystal tones echoed through the palace halls, making the windows vibrate. "They've discovered the break-in," Jack said, quickly checking his data device. "We have maybe 10 minutes before they lock down the whole palace." Arya's hands shook as she grabbed her few precious belongings from her small room. "Where can we go?" "The spaceport is on the other side of the city. I have a backup plan." Jack pulled out a small communicator. "Earth base, this is Miller. Code red. Package secured, but we need immediate extraction. Sending coordinates." Static crackled. Then a voice responded. "Received, Miller. Transport incoming. Get to the East Garden." They ran through the service corridors, using Arya's knowledge of the palace layout to avoid the main halls. Twice they had to hide in cleaning closets as guards rushed past. The evidence of Thomas's plot was safely stored in Jack's encrypted devices, but they needed to get it out of the palace. "Stop!" a voice shouted behind them. Master Bell stood at the end of the corridor with 2 guards. "The princess is trying to escape with the human spy." "This way." Arya pulled Jack through a hidden door into the palace's crystal gardens. The artificial suns had dimmed for the night cycle, leaving the crystal trees glowing softly in the darkness. Their footsteps echoed on the crystal path as they ran. Shots from energy weapons sizzled past them, striking the crystal trees and making them ring like bells. Jack pulled out his own weapon, a simple earth stunner, and fired back, dropping one of the pursuing guards. "The East Garden is through here," Arya gasped, her legs burning from running. She had never run this far in her life. They burst through the garden doors into the open air. The three moons lit up the night sky, casting multiple shadows across the garden. More guards were coming from both sides. "Where's our ride?" Arya asked, fear creeping into her voice. "Trust me," Jack grinned, pulling her behind a large crystal fountain. "Earth doesn't leave its people behind." A deep humming filled the air. The guards looked up in confusion as a dark shape appeared in the sky, seeming to come from nowhere. It was a small Earth shuttle, its stealth systems deactivating as it descended toward the garden. "Freeze!" Thomas's voice rang out across the garden. Arya's brother stood at the garden entrance, surrounded by elite guards. "Sister, you disappoint me yet again. Consorting with human spies, stealing state secrets. The only secrets we stole were proof of your crimes." Arya shouted back. "Plans to murder innocent diplomats, to start a war for profit." The shuttle landed behind them, its rear door opening with a hiss. Jack fired his stunner again, keeping the guards back. "Get in," he yelled to Arya. "You'll never make it off-world," Thomas snarled. "Our defense systems will shoot down any unauthorized ship." "Good thing we have authorization then," Jack said. He pulled out an official diplomatic card. "Your own trade agreement gives Earth ships diplomatic immunity. You can't legally touch us." Arya felt a moment of pride. Her brother's own complicated laws and treaties were being used against him. She climbed into the shuttle, Jack right behind her. The door began to close. "This isn't over," Thomas screamed, his face twisted with rage. "I'll hunt you across the galaxy." "No, brother," Arya said quietly, though she knew he couldn't hear. "For me, it's just beginning." The shuttle shot upward, breaking through the atmosphere in minutes. Arya watched through the window as her world shrank below them, the gleaming crystal cities becoming tiny points of light. "Are you okay?" Jack asked softly. Arya nodded, surprising herself when she realized it was true. "I'm free," she whispered. "For the first time in my life, I'm really free." But as the shuttle docked with the waiting Earth ship, she knew their journey wasn't over. They had the evidence. Now they had to find a way to use it. The Earth ship's communications room hummed with activity. Arya sat beside Jack, watching as he connected their evidence to the ship's powerful transmitters. After 3 days in space, they were ready to expose her brother's crimes. "Are you sure about this?" Jack asked, his hand hovering over the broadcast button. "Once we send this, there's no going back. Your whole society might change." "That's what I'm hoping for," Arya said firmly. She looked at the screen showing her recorded message. In it, she wore simple Earth clothes, not royal crystal robes. "My people deserve to know the truth." Jack nodded and pressed the button. Their broadcast overrode every communication channel in the Crystal Empire. On thousands of screens, in homes and public spaces, Arya's face appeared. "People of the Crystal Empire," she began. "I am Princess Arya. You were told I was a traitor. The truth is far different." She explained everything. Thomas's plot to kill the humans, his secret weapons deals, his plans for war. But she didn't stop there. "I seen another way to live," she continued. "On Earth, people choose their own paths. They read what they want. They speak freely. They choose their leaders. We were taught that such freedom brings chaos, but I seen it bring joy, creativity, and progress instead." The evidence streamed out behind her words. Financial records, secret messages, weapons contracts. Proof that couldn't be denied. Back in the Crystal Empire, the reaction was immediate. Palace servants began sharing their own stories of abuse. Lower-caste citizens gathered in the streets, talking openly about change for the first time. Even some nobles, long unhappy with Thomas's rule, spoke up. "Look at this," Jack said, showing Arya his datapad. People were copying and sharing her message everywhere. In the crystal mines, workers were laying down their tools. In the schools, students were asking questions their teachers couldn't answer. "Your brother's trying to block the transmissions," a communications officer reported. "But Earth technology is too different from crystal tech. He can't stop it." Arya watched the screens as more reports came in. A group of palace guards had refused orders to arrest protesters. The crystal miners were demanding better treatment. University students were openly reading banned books in the streets. "It's spreading faster than I imagined," she whispered. "Ideas are powerful things," Jack said, "especially when people are ready for them." A new message flashed on the screen. The Council of Nobles was meeting in emergency session. Many were calling for Thomas to step down. His own allies were abandoning him as more evidence of his crimes emerged. "Princess," the ship's captain entered the room. "We're receiving messages from reform-minded nobles. They're asking you to return and help guide the changes." Arya shook her head. "I'm not a princess anymore. And our people need to learn to lead themselves, not just follow another royal." "Then what will you do?" Jack asked softly. "I want to learn more about Earth's way of life. Really learn, not just from books. Then maybe I can help build something new at home, not as a ruler, but as a teacher." The screen showed more images from home. Peaceful protests spreading across crystal cities, people of different castes talking together in public squares, children asking questions in schools. Change was coming, faster than anyone had expected. "Your brother won't give up easily," Jack warned. "He still has supporters." "I know," Arya said. "But he's fighting against something he can't stop: hope. Once people see that things can be different, that they can be free." She smiled. "Well, I learned that lesson myself, didn't I?" As if to prove her point, another message arrived. The Crystal Liners Union, which hadn't officially existed until today, wanted to broadcast their own story of Thomas's corruption. They wouldn't be the last. The revolution Arya had started wasn't being fought with weapons, but with words and ideas. And those, she had learned, were the most powerful forces in any galaxy. 6 months had passed since Arya's escape. She stood at the window of her small apartment in New York, watching Earth's single sun set behind the tall buildings. The sight still amazed her. One sun, one moon, but so much life and energy below. Her phone buzzed with a message from home. The Crystal Empire's first free elections were starting. Thomas had finally faced justice, his crimes too well documented to deny. He now sat in a prison cell, his crystal rings and royal titles stripped away. "Ready for your speech?" Jack asked, entering the room. He wasn't her bodyguard anymore, hadn't been for months, but they had stayed close friends. "As ready as I'll ever be," Arya replied, smoothing her simple blue dress. No more color-changing crystal fabric. She preferred earth clothes now. "I just hope the UN Council listens." The United Nations had invited her to speak about establishing new trade and cultural exchange programs with the Crystal Empire. It wasn't just about business. It was about helping her people learn to live with their new freedoms. "They'll listen," Jack assured her. "You've already done the hard part." He was right. The past months hadn't been easy. She had studied Earth's history of democracy, learning about both successes and failures. She had visited schools, factories, and farms, seeing how different people lived and worked together. Some of it was messy and imperfect, but it was real. The car ride to the UN building was quiet. Arya reviewed her notes, thinking about how much had changed. The Crystal Empire's rigid case system was ending. Schools were opening their libraries to everyone. Workers were forming unions. It wasn't always smooth, change never was, but it was happening. Ambassador Arya, the UN secretary, greeted her. No more princess. She had given up that title officially last month. She walked to the podium and looked out at the gathered representatives from Earth's nations. Among them sat delegates from her own world, not just nobles now, but people from all levels of society. Distinguished delegates, she began, I come to you not as royalty, but as someone who has learned the true meaning of freedom. My world is changing, and we need your help, not to tell us what to do, but to show us what's possible. As she spoke, screens behind her showed images from home. A former servant giving a speech in the new parliament. Children from different castes playing together in crystal parks. Workers voting on factory conditions. Each image reflected a small piece of the change she had helped start. We don't want to simply copy Earth's ways, she continued. We must find our own path to freedom. But we can learn from your experiences, your mistakes, and your successes. The trade agreements she proposed were approved unanimously. But more important were the cultural exchange programs, students, teachers, workers, and artists traveling between worlds, sharing ideas and dreams. Later, at a small celebration, Jack found her on a balcony, watching the city lights. Congratulations, Ambassador, he smiled. Though I have to ask, do you miss any of it? The palace, the royal life. Arya thought about her old crystal chambers, the servants, the protocol robots. I miss some people, she admitted. And sometimes I miss the crystal gardens. But I don't miss the cage, even if it was a beautiful one. And what's next for the former princess? I'm going home next month to teach at the new university. They're starting classes on Earth culture and democratic systems. She smiled. But I'll be back. Earth has become my second home. You've come a long way from that hidden library corner, Jack said softly. We all have. Arya looked up at the stars, knowing her homeworld was out there somewhere. But that's what freedom means, doesn't it? The chance to choose your own path, make your own mistakes, find your own way. The night was clear, and she could see more stars than ever before. Each one represented another world, another possibility. Her journey had started with a simple act of defiance, refusing to accept the life others had planned for her. Now that same spirit was helping to transform her entire society. It wasn't a perfect ending. Real life never had those. There would be more challenges, more changes, more hard work ahead. But for the first time, Arya was truly excited about the future. She wasn't just free herself. She was helping others find their freedom too. And that, she had learned, was the greatest adventure of all.